So they try to split in half. The top that's he killed the fly. But it's multiple. It's multiply out more. 1 in 2, 2 in 4, and so forth. So in meditation, again, remember at the last part, he accepts the fly. Remember? To become a flower. Remember I told you about accept. Right? Neither attach nor detach. He accepts the reality. And they won't bother you. So when you do more when you practice meditation, you will see that when you sit there and there's a lot of thought popping up, and you try to block them out, you try to kick them away, chase them away, and so forth, you'll be tired. You accept and bring back the breath to the present. That's what this is. Okay, that's good. Now, let's just move on. Number 1, any question? Number 1.
Kind of already been talking a lot about meditation, mostly like
Yeah.
Negative feelings such as anxiety, anger, depression, and stress arise from attachment and egotism, our partiality towards people, things, ideas, etc. One of the solutions that Buddhism offers to these emotions is meditation, which is taking your mind away from physical, mental distractions. Because these stresses arise from our attachment, the goal is to effectively separate ourselves from these attachments and the things we dislike as well. Tasks that can be very difficult for most people, but through mental cultivation, we develop mindfulness to not so much distance ourselves, but become neutral and hopefully free ourselves from responding to the world and to our biased emotions. Responding to the world in a biased way.
So how could meditation deal with this kind of emotional problems?
I think the video is a good way. You focus so much on something like anger, and then it starts clouding up your judgments, so you can really stop and clear your mind of everything, rethink the problem, even just distance yourself from the problem for a while. You can think more clearly and react in a better way.
Yes, that film was a good example of dealing with the part like you got anxiety, and that's what I got. Like, okay, mindfulness is the central practice of the Buddhist tradition, and when dealing with mental afflictions such as stress, anxiety, depression, and anger, that presents, like in the film, the guy he began to suffer.
Yeah.
And one way to be mindful is I would use the part where the breathing technique. I would inhale and exhale to get away from like anger or anxiety, to get within the moment of the situation. The moment of the situation, I think it's better to be, I gotta look at myself and not let anything affect. Wait a minute, hold on, wait a minute. Okay, because I'm dealing with the anxiety and the anger part. So, if I'm meditating and something like that comes into focus, I use the breathing technique to come to oneness with myself. And there's some more stuff. It's like, let's see how can I put this. In order to, I don't know, it was something I was reading. It was something I was reading, but I can't put it into words.
That's
right
okay,
now.
no problem. Yeah. Okay, remember when we talk about the Four Noble Truths, right? We talk much about the craving, the anger, and so forth, right? So again, let me put this way. When you come to class, you get a test. Sometimes you're nervous, right? And when you go to have interview, right, you stress out too. Why? Why you nervous when you can test? Why you stress out when you deal with some important task? Yeah.
You want a good grade on your tests.
That's important. Remember we talked about this one here? Right? And why are you nervous?
Fear of rejection.
Yeah. Fear of rejection again. Fear of you won't get that job, right? And so forth. It's just simple. So as much as we understand the roots of the problems, like the Buddha mentioned about the second, right, the cause, the suffering, we can transform them, right? So again, so how good concentration and mindfulness help us to deal with, let's say, the stress when you come to class to take the test, and when you go to have an interview. How good concentration of mindfulness help you out to deal with that?
Because you can let go of the attachment of the fear and just accept it for what it is.
That's
You're going to go to an interview, and whatever the result is, you have to accept it. And if you can go into it with that mindset, then you'll have less fear.
Remember, from the moment that you drive your car from your house to here, you know the starting point, departure points, and the arrival points, right? You know exactly, right? Of course. What happened while you're driving, and you still have the thought that you want to get here early?
A lot of distractions.
Why? That is destruction. Why? Especially when it snows, right? Remember in those days?
You have a speed limit, there's traffic,
Yeah,
or old people.
Yeah, and you'll be angry,
Yes.
right? And so that's the point. That's what when you get concentrate on your driving, especially okay, this in our area we don't have much traffic problems, right? But you live in LA, big city, right? It's just that's heck. And especially when you have to deal with many people in front of you, they may cut your line, or when you come across to the stop sign or traffic sign, what happened then? If you don't, you'll be angry because you expect you have the smooth traffic, right? But that's go against your expectation. That's why you suffer. So the reason why the only thing is just get go with the flow, get self-conditions, get concentrate on what you're doing. It makes sense now? So that's the way you can transform that kind of emotional fluctuation. Is that clear? So it's common sense, but it's hard to recognize. That's right? Is that right?
Yeah,
It's common sense. When we try to get right, we know we will be here, right? We may be later, or we can try our best. Or when we do the test, try your best and so. Make sense? Right? Or when you do the cooking, you have any expectation to cook a good food for your families? What happens if
Birds or something.
your food don't meet to their expectation?
Or the pizza.
Okay. Yeah, see that? So that's simple. And the reason why here.
They'll still eat it because they love you. Oh, I love bird things.
Okay, again, now see that? So that's why. So that's why here. The effect of stress, the effect of meditation, it will help you to lower your blood pressure. Oh, sorry, we talk about stress here. Let's reduce her stress because we don't put more energy. Remember, whenever we put the energy for fight and flight, remember, we will be exhausted soon, right? But when we accept things as the way they are, we have more energy for the day. Does it make sense? And I hope that most of you are young here, right? You don't have problems of blood pressure, right? As immune system and so on. So that's just common sense because the body and the mind work together. We cannot separate them. Okay? So let's move on. So this reason nowadays is so important Okay, I see what we have in school.
I read the article you had on Flex.
Yeah.
So basically just kind of summarized what she said. Mindfulness in school is basically just allowing students to kind of be able to think differently and be able to clear their head and focus on the present moment. And by offering tools to do so, students will have changes in the way they approach their work and the quality of their work. And then I listed some exercises that author uses on her students. So you can observe your breath, breathing in I am and breathing out peace, and repeating it several times. You can observe thoughts or feelings as you breathe and acknowledge them. You can count to 2 as you breathe, hold the breath for a 2 count, and release the breath for another 2 count. Students can practice mindful eating, meaning they observe what they're eating, taste, smell, texture, etc. Then students have to take 1 full minute to experience 1 mouthful and ask them for their observations. And there's a lot of different ones, but basically just like observing the present moment.
We don't have time to watch this video clips. You can watch at home by yourself. Okay, so many students, young students nowadays, they practice meditation in school. With my own experience, I used to teach the young children 1 minute of meditation at a time. 2 or 3 too long for them, even for beginners. Yeah, it's still easy for them to practice. And as soon as you tell them to close eyes, it's just better. Right? And I have seen many children, they are hyper children, and so what happened? The parents take them to see doctor, and the doctor just provide them the pills, and this is not, it's unhealthy.
Especially for the anger management kids, that's like really, it seems like it would help. But in my middle school, I think they started that, we didn't have walls in our classroom, so it was to help us focus on what our teacher was saying, while 5 or 6 other classrooms were going on. And it was really good. Like stress was down, I could take tests like with tons of noise and think.
Yeah, it's not popular nowadays, but many schools apply really show the difference. Apply mindfulness in school. Let me show you this one here. Now, let me go back to study. Meditation strengthen the brain. This is from UCLA. They scan the brain. Right? Here, this is data. Can you see? I have to pull down. Can you see this? Theta wave. This is the active one. Alpha relax, theta meditate, delta REM sleep, and the last one is deep one. And when you meditate, according to scientists, can you read this? Too small for it. Can you see?
A little bit.
Little bit. So during successful meditation, the subject typically start off with high beta. High beta is here. And there's thinking. Then experience more alpha, followed by more theta, and finally delta. The deepest levels, after some time, the result process take place. So you go deeper to calm your mind. You have the happiness. And they have taken that type of image. When you do meditation, this is reduced. Here, rest and pen. Pen, that's rest. The yellow one is pen. meditation, and when you meditate, it's really successful.
What are those? What are those yellow things?
The yellow is the pen. The pen. When you rest your mind, there's the pen here.
Oh, okay,
It's
yeah,
indication of the
okay.
pen.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. Alright, so let's just move on. Okay, the next one, please. Number 3. Yes, please.
So for the healthcare, you have to look at it both from the healthcare provider's point and from the patient's. And it's beneficial for both. If a healthcare provider stays mindful in just the situation, one situation with one patient at one time, it allows for less mistakes, less stress, a closer bond between the patient and provider. And then for a patient that is ill, it decreases stress as well, and that is part of the healing process and allows them to get better quicker.
You'd like to share yes?
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, I work in an emergency room, and so I think that being mindful in the healthcare is kind of like it sounds great, but it's very hard to apply. So it'd be kind of like a dream situation because you're constantly being overloaded. When I'm in a patient's room, I've got a list of 10 other things I have to do, and then I have to carry a phone, and it's constantly ringing, telling me more things I have to do. And I think that it's about like trying to fit in as many patients within a certain amount of time as possible, instead of being in that moment, it's constantly go, because it's about money.
We heard some story that the nurse or the doctor give the patient wrong medicine, right? And especially when it's an emergency case, right? People die because of that kind of wrong medicine. Why? You heard about this type of story, right?
Some insulin.
Yeah, and people die because of what? Because they're not mindful. They were not mindful of what kind of medicine they provide to the patient. And plus, like you say, right? Because your supervisor or manager give you that kind of pressure, right? To take care of many patients, and then to generate revenue for the hospital, whichever. You're stressed out. Was that right? And even the patient, they may not be care much in a mindful way. So it's not the winning games for everyone, right? Because they just based upon the money, and they're not based upon how to care the illness of the patient. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of made a comparison like that about how a computer works, and it gets overloaded, and you get too much stuff, and then it stops working, and it made it the same as human beings.
Yeah. Anyone you?
I'm a server, and that is the same. Yeah. If you go in there like, I gotta make money. Then you're not really caring about the guests, and then your tips are really crappy. And then, but if you're in there like, hey, I'm at work today, I'm just gonna serve people and not care about the money. You just go in there and happy and talk to everybody. You get bigger tips, and you actually make more money because you're not as stressed out.
See that we talk about right intention, remember? Right? How to care for other people, how to bring benefit, how to bring happiness, peacefulness to other people. If we put the money, the power, and the 5 desires on the top of that, well, we may be loser at the end, right? And when you work in the hospital or business, besides.
I used to.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just like she said, a lot of patients in there. And sometimes, you stay in a room longer than you really want to, because sometimes you get attached to certain patients, and you want to see them do good.
Have you ever cared for elderly people in the nursing home? You see that if you put money as your priority, how could you care for them, right? If you put their health as priority, it's a different story. Of course, you will go there to work, to earn money, to earn income, but you have to have good relationship with the patient, with the clients.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not easy.
You hate the job.
Yeah, you hate the job. That's the point. Okay, let's just move on. So what do you have in business, Mr.? You work in demand, so you have more experience, right? Okay.
So I read the articles about mindfulness in business, and according to our book, mindfulness refers to mental application in the sense of attentiveness to a particular object of concentration, denoting precisely where the mind is directed at any given moment. So part of it is the concentration and focus part, but then the other point is to free yourself from the habitual ways of responding to certain circumstances, so that we're not swayed by our emotions and the occurrences we face. So being mindful in business is important for several reasons. One of them is that a person who's successful in business can kind of get like a high, ooh, we're winners, we're so great, we did that project so well, everything's so perfect. And so you kind of get an invincibility complex where you think that the next project automatically by default is going to go well because the last one did, which that sets you up for failure because you're not being mindful of the next task at hand. You're not contemplating the best solutions and working toward that goal. You're thinking, oh, we're so great, this is going to be fine. And that just sets you up for pitfalls because your thoughts, you're so attached to the prior success that you're not focused on the next task at hand and making proper choices. Another reason mindfulness in business is important is because of leadership. It's important for leaders to be mindful because they affect all the people who report to them, and they have a lot more responsibility. So any decision that's made or any response to a stressful situation can impact many people. Let's see, a leader must be aware of how they affect the people around them, especially the people who report to them, because leaders are examples and mentors. So being mindful of one's values and the implications of decisions over the long term can affect many people.
Okay. Thank you. So, if you are a manager, a supervisor, if you base your jobs on, again, money and power, what happened? What's the problem with this?
You can lose it.
Why? Why is you lose it?
Well, you lose focus on the morality or the ethics of business as well.
You forget, let's put the morality or ethics aside for a while. When you run business, that's based upon generate income, right? Money. Or when you want to climb up to the ladder, right? The power. What's wrong with that? Is that anything wrong, or it's
Attachment.
of course it's attachment, but I want to discuss the healthy and unhealthy aspect of this type of approaches.
Well, if money and power are your only drivers for success, then
Your driver.
then you're motivated. You'll do anything to achieve it, and so that means anything that's not related to money or power gets thrown away. So treating people well, or creating long-term beneficial solutions may not be as important. You might just do some quick short-term thing to get the money, and then it causes problems down the road.
And when you have run business before, yes, but you do.
Well, I don't run a business, but I work in business. I'm a marketing rep for a restaurant.
Okay.
And I know that, a lot of my job is based off of sales. So if I don't reach those sales or don't bring in, the amount of money that we projected for that, that quarter, then, I get very upset. So it's kind of the attachment thing. I feel, like, oh, I didn't do a good job, or, so I
But
can kind of relate.
Did your supervisor give you any kind of pressure to get that goal?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's the drive for you to do the job. And it's stressed out, right? Most of you are working now, right? Right. Okay. So it's stressed out in your environment. How much stress do you have?
I work with the general public on a daily.
Oh, really? General public here?
Huh?
Original?
No, I work at a health food store.
This is stressful?
Very much.
How? Why?
Because of Dr. Oz. No, I have, but that's our bread and butter. He just tells people what kind of things they should be taking, and some of it's really off the wall, and then they get mad at me because I can't help them. So, it's very strict.
I work at the Boys and Girls Club in New Albany, and I work with a lot of underserved and underprivileged children. With many of them have behavioral problems. So yes, I do have to constantly try to remain mindful and not let my stress rise and fall. They're very mean to each other, so I'm constantly saying treat others the way you want to be treated, treat others with kindness, and sometimes I can be one person with 20 or 30 kids trying to get them to all remain calm, so that can be stressful.
Yes.
I work in a library, and
Here?
a lot of people, no, not here, in Madison and Hanover.
Okay.
And people have this misconception that librarians know every book that was ever written or can do anything on computers, and they come there to do taxes or to file for divorce, and they assume we can help them with that kind of stuff, but we can't because it's legal, business, and people get very angry at us when we don't know what book they're talking about or don't have what they want. You really have to kind of realize that most of the time people aren't really angry at you, it's something else going on in their life. Try to not react to them being cruel. That's with anybody who works with the public.
Yeah. Like I told, we discussed about, remember, win-win situation, right? If we don't create this kind of win-win situation, what happen? No one wants to be loser, right? Everyone wants to be a winner. But in business, right? Let's say we're in the company. Okay, the employees, employers, employees, and clients or patient, whichever it's just like a triangular relationship, right? I have many followers. They work in the nail salon business, and some of them they are employees, and they complain that the employers, their boss, care much for the clients, not for them. And so stress out that if the clients complain, the employees need to make correction. Otherwise, they will be kicked out, they will be laid off. It's unhealthy, right? When you have employees, your employee is the one that can run for, that help you to run the business. But you put a lot of pressure on them. What happened? They
lose the business.
Yeah, they may lose the business because they may lose the clients. Even the employees require employees to care for the clients. You see that you have to take care of everyone's. Not based upon the money or the power as the drive to run. Based upon how beneficial, how happiness we are in this type of triangular relationship. Yes.
Sorry to get you off track, but did you say you personally know people that work in the nail salons?
You?
Do you?
Yeah, plenty. Yeah.
I don't go to those because I get the feeling that they aren't being treated well and that the boss is just mean and probably underpaying, paying them $2 or $3 an hour. So I was wondering if you might have any insight into that.
It's long
If
story.
Okay.
I hear a lot of story about that.
Yeah, I just
This is
kind of got that feeling.
Yeah, I used to remind them, you have to take care of your employees well. Yes.
I just recently switched jobs. I've been a server for like 3 years. Before that was daycares. And I was very angry all the time at my old job because I was constantly seeing people rise above me, even though I was working really hard and caring about the client or whatever. Constantly, like, and the bosses were horrible. So I switched to a new company, and it's a lot better. The employer cares about its employees. Like, they give us things, they give us incentives to do a good job. We have sale competitions every night, which makes it fun. but it doesn't make us, and they're not like, oh, if your sales are horrible, you're gonna get fired. I mean, if they're really bad, yeah,
Yeah.
because you're not making money, but I don't have a fear for my job when I go in there like I used to, and I'm happier.
Yeah, one of my followers, she worked for Boeing in Washington State, and they care much about their employees. When they hire her, they pay all the expense to for her to transport her staff from Pennsylvania to Washington State, and they give her a lot of incentives, bonus. So when you make your employees happy, your company will be successful. And if you give them hard time, they may drive away the clients or the employee or the customers. Right? This you have to recognize. Okay, let's move on. Well, we have 3 people. Okay, Amy, you want to start? Did you do this one?
I think we're on number 5.
Oh, no, that's okay. Taylor?
We didn't talk about number 5 yet.
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped this one, huh?
We're on 5A and C.
I'm sorry, I'm not like. Okay, yes, you want to talk about politics? Yeah, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Yeah, basically being mindful in politics just means, that.
Again, how, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
That the politicians make decisions. When they do, they need to be mindful of, how their decisions are going to affect others. They need to be concentrated on not necessarily like power or money or interest groups or like maybe their next campaign. They just need to be focused on like their job and just making the correct decisions.
Yeah. So these are the 2 and other 1 too. You recognize them? No. Tim Ryan is the congressman in Ohio, and this one in South Carolina. How about who else does politics? You? Oh. Let me see. Miss Upton? She's not here? So why is so important for politicians to be mindful?
Because if they're not concentrated on what they're doing, they're going to let other things affect them, like money and power and, maybe like, base their decisions off, hey, how am I going to win my next campaign,
But most of us, or many of us, recognize that there's a lot of corruption in politics, right? Why?
Because they're not doing this.
Oh no, they don't need to do this. Yeah.
But it is
why?
right, they're not mindful of anything. They're mostly focused on money and power, and like she said, trying to win the election and trying to get, and if they step back and think about their people, and it's kind of like a king, he has to sit back and like do the right thing for his people, and not about his ego.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
It's like you said, it's the love of money. Politics is the love of money. You gotta have money to get into politics, and then once you get in there, you wanna.
And
It's a peeing
you do
contest
the
between
favor
countries.
back to the one who support you financially after the campaign, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yes, sir.
It's the same thing as the employer-employees
Yeah.
alliance.
Yeah.
It's
Not much
government
different.
representatives.
Not much different. I have one center in nearby Atlantic City, New Jersey, and recently I have a lunch with the mayor. He just won that campaign, and he found out that there's a lot of corruptions in the previous administration, city administration. So he tried to fix that. It's not easy. The only way, this is the reason why I advise my young followers don't involve in politics. When you involve that, you have to go with the flow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Either, right, Democrats or Republicans, right? And you get, whenever you engage in that kind of business, even you want to remain pure or helpful for the people, but you alone cannot change much because of the flow, right? But of course, yes, of course, like Mr. Tim Ryan, he wrote a book, right? A Mindful Nation. It's really good for people, and he promotes mindfulness in every, especially in politics. This is really good. Okay. Okay. Yes, you? Okay, so how can they apply mindfulness in law practice?
By trying to make sure that they interpret the laws faithfully and that they're abiding by the letter and the spirit of the law. And people in law practice also have to be very careful about their own personal ethics, make sure they don't break the laws themselves. So, or even like judges have to make sure that they're being very fair and.
That's the point. Fair, right?
And
Right.
it's like you could really just redraw that as a scale, you know, of Lady Justice. With
And the reason why we have this good system is a jury system, right? Have you been picked before? How? You enjoy?
No, it was awful.
Really?
It was 2 weeks of my life where I got dismissed most of the time because it's a jury pool and they pay you like $6 an hour to sit there. And then lawyers and paralegals sort through your names, look at your history, and decide whether or not they want you on a trial. Never got paid. It was awesome.
How about anyone? Anyone has been in the jury?
I was on the Porsche jury.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I got chosen, but I mean, I was there and I sat in there for a couple of days.
It's
And,
boring or interesting? It's
Say-
boring or interesting?
It was, I mean, it was kind of interesting,
Okay.
trying to decide whether this guy was guilty or not. And,
What do you think? As a monk, can it be here? What do you think? What do you think?
Yeah.
I told them I live in Corden. I live in Corden. Last few years, when I first got here, they sent a letter that I was picked in this jury group. So I say no. With my religious right, I cannot be in that position. In church people, right? One of your comments, right? One of your comments is may change the life of innocent into criminals and vice versa. As I cannot do that. And plus, like you say, when you are a lawyer to represent, let's say, the innocent, right? You have to be mindful how to present the case so that you can win the case. Otherwise, if you done lousy work, lousy job, they may not hire you. Is that right? And especially if you are the judge, you have to be what? Yeah, impartial. Is that right? That is why they pick up the one that may not know either party. Is that right? I think it's be a good system. Yes.
Wouldn't you have to be a very unmindful lawyer to represent like a person that you knew or thought very strongly to be guilty? Because you would sit there, yeah.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy to handle.
I mean, you might have to be a pretty mindful lawyer to represent someone that you highly suspect is guilty because you're not that's why we have the legal system so that one person doesn't hold that absolute power.
some of them do it though, some lawyers do it.
I mean, it's still, there's crooks everywhere, but
Yeah.
You can get me off if I'm guilty, it's not much of a crime worth everything.
Well, I thought about going into law, and I just didn't feel like I would be able to represent someone who I really thought that was guilty or someone who.
Of course, the others professional fields in law practice, you can have people too, right? In immigration, right? In real estate, it's okay. But
Yeah.
when you deal with criminal justice, you have to be careful, right? Okay, so anyone of you goes through that field? No. Okay, now let's move on. Okay, practice. Amy, you here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what do you have here?
I found that mindfulness is being used to help the military and its veterans, and they're becoming more frequent and fascinating. That's not right. They said that it's supposed to help veterans cope with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and there's actually training now for the military, like before they even, I guess while they're in, or they might even be doing it in boot camp now. I didn't have a chance to ask my boyfriend, but he's a war vet, and he has really bad PTSD, and he's been out for like 6 years. So I was like really interested in trying to find this, but it's 8 weeks. It's taught over 8 weeks, and it's called MMFT. It's mindfulness-based mind fitness, and it cultivates mindfulness skills with specific exercises to build additional control and concentration. It provides the body-based self-regulation skills training for coping with the physiological and psychological effects of extreme or prolonged stress. Resilience is the ability to function effectively during stressful experiences and teaches the ability to bounce back after such experiences. To create this in a person, the individual needs to have a stressful experience that deliberately pushes them outside their comfort zone, and then teach the body and mind to recover effectively from that experience. During this process, their body and mind learn to tolerate and function effectively under more stress than before. And they could do it in seven days, but it's usually tolerate weeks.
Especially if you are in the battlefield, between when you are in the situation of life and death, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is very important.
You have to think fast, like if there's bombs going off or if you're being shot at.
Yeah.
What's the name of that? What was that?
It reminds me of Mutant Ninja Turtles, MMFT.
Oh,
It's like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah,
It's like
okay.
Yes, you're right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I did this also, our the military thing, and I wrote about, the same thing she wrote about with using mindfulness training to help people cope with post-traumatic stress, and I also wrote a great deal about how mindfulness is key to any military unit. You know, I was an infantryman.
How
and,
long? How long were you serve?
I served for 4 years.
Okay.
And I got out in 2010. Anyway, in the infantry, we have these things called battle drills, which you just train and train and train on these battle drills. Troy knows what I'm talking about. So it's just a collective action rapidly executed without applying a deliberate decision-making process is what the definition is. So you just train and train and train until whenever the battle drill is initiated, you just do it. You don't think, you just do it. And that requires a deal of mindfulness, because if you're thinking about what you're doing, you're not going to do it effectively or fast. And thinking too much or having a cluttered mind and a preoccupied mind leads to hesitation in action, which gets you killed. So you can't hesitate and you can't be preoccupied. You only have to do what you're trained to do and what you're told to do.
Yeah.
And your mind must be on what you're ordered to do and what you're trained to do and nothing else.
Yeah.
You must be totally in the present, because if you're thinking of the past or the future, it's, somebody that gets paid more than you gets paid to think about the future. You don't get paid to think about the future. You're, thinking about the present.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I also did this, but I took mine to more like leadership roles in the military and how generals and stuff, because I'm more of a military historian, and I took it to being mindful of your decision-making skills and things, that'll get your men killed or will get your men to survive to fight another day. And I took it as, looked at it as the generals that were most beloved by their men were the ones that were fair and got them home as often as possible.
Yeah.
I just found that part of
That's really, yeah.
Mindfulness to be really
That's
fascinating.
right. So if you're a leader, right? If you're a general, if you drive by power, you don't care about your men, and you go to the battlefield anyway. You don't know the danger, you don't know the strategy, and so forth. You may be killed.
Or you're not going to train them as well as they need to be.
Yeah, so you have to care for them. So what happened with the vets? What happened? Why we have what we call P what?
PTSD.
PTSD.
Yep.
Right? Why do you have that type of problems?
Stress.
Why?
Things happen and it remains in the
Yeah,
mind.
the past. When they were in the battlefield, right? All kind of image, all kind of violent image, right? It's still there. That's why they figure out, even they live now in the peaceful environment. You see, so mindfulness could be helpful for them to be here and now. See that? So this is again, this is really important. Okay, the next one, who does this one? Taylor?
That was me.
Oh, that's you. Okay, sorry. Okay, let me see here. Okay, in sport, Kevin. Yes, what do you have in sports?
With mine, I talked about. I actually read a couple of articles. There was one that was called, a lot of the Zen in golf, Zen in archery. I talked about how Tiger Woods actually attributes his ability to concentrate as to how he does so well on the course. He says he feels more relaxed and focused when he's playing the 18 holes because his mind is on that, and that is what he focuses on. I also quoted The Simpsons with there's an old episode where Lisa uses Buddhism to get Bart to focus on a mini golf tournament.
Okay, you know him, right? Hugh Jackson,
Yeah.
and Michael Jordan, right? They Space Hugh Jackson, he trained his men to do meditation before they had the games, right? You play sport here, right? Right? So, what kind of sport do you play?
I played volleyball.
Volleyball?
And we would do we would do chants and workouts to get our mind off the crowd and get more into the game.
Yeah, that's unity, remember? Unity.
Oh, unity, yes.
Be in tune with the games. Be in tune with your job, right? Be in tune with this present moment. When you hit the ball, and what happened? You think about your boyfriends or all the people out there. You be friends.
I had a game, I did that one time. There was a boy that I was crushing on, or none of my family was allowed to come to my games because I was going to be too freaked out and they were watching me. So yeah, I had a game where I was like, ooh, he's over there. We lost.
That's a boy.
Oh, because
so yes, it's so important. Okay, let's move on. The next one is okay. Do you have what do you have there?
Meditative trance.
Yeah, what do you have there?
Okay, that was a little difficult for me.
Difficult? Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
when I looked it up, it pretty much says that a meditative trance is a little bit different than meditation because it's the state of the mind and it's not something that you can just sit down and do one time. Like
Yeah.
I practice meditation, but I can't relate to trance because I'm going to say that I've never been in a meditative trance.
So no problem.
It takes years, I guess, and lots of concentration. It's almost a skill, kind of,
Yeah.
to get to the trance. And then pretty much once you're there, I don't know, I don't really know.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't get the concept is just saying that it's in a deeper state of mind and more, but you're not in your consciousness, but you're not in meditation. You're like in your subconscious, I guess, or in that realm of somewhere between that Einstein when he figured out that energy, he would sit with nickels in his fingers and he'd try to get into that. Once he fell asleep, the nickels would fall and hit a pan, and that's how he knew he was outside of that state of being. So that's how he, figured out that there was a subconscious in your brain. Do you know what I'm saying?
So it's taken many years for you to have the license as a clinical psychologist, right? So how could they recognize you are a clinical psychologist, you have to go through many different training, different tests. Is that right? So that they recognize as you pass our test. Well, of course, in meditation, up to now, they don't have any tools to measure, right? To have any standards, any standard to recognize the state. But this is the Buddhist views. Okay, here, day-to-day general state of mind. Okay, we have 10 minutes. So this here, you see in here is a lot of confusion here. But when we experience what called jhana is meditative state of mind, or state of absorption, the state of what we call the samadhi, or concentration. You really concentrate. Let's say, yesterday I met you on the way, right? So when you sit there, you draw the image, a picture. You in tune with that picture. How long? Did you pay attention? What times?
I could be drawing for like 8 hours and then look up and be like, whoa, it's 8 hours
See
later.
that? That kind of jhana, that kind of mental absorption. When you're really in tune with the subject, object that you're doing, drawing, even for your children playing games, right? Or in love too, right? In every aspect of life. You see that in meditation. Yet if we really focus our mind, we experience this kind of what we call the calmness of the mind or the jhana state of mind. And they stratified into 4 stages. Just for your information. But of course, this is not easy to define. But this is this here. This is just the general. This is the first. Actually, sometimes they divide into 4 parts. Sometimes divide into 5. And this, when you enter that state of mind, you have some kind of joy, happiness, one point, and so forth. That's just for your information. Later on, when you do more research about Buddhist meditation. Okay? Yeah, it's still complicated. Okay, let's just move on to the next one. Chanting, Krishna?
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you have there?
There's like a few different reasons for chanting, or different kinds of technologies to chant.
Yeah.
There's some sort of chanting in just about every like service in Buddhism, no matter what kind of school it is. So some schools focus more on it than others. Usually you chant a line of the text or a rite, and
You speak up.
yeah, sorry. You usually chant like a line of text or a word over and over again, and you're supposed to focus not only on the moment of you saying it, but also what it means. And there are some Buddhist services where they chant for hours, and I know sometimes they chant for the recently deceased to give them merits. I thought that was interesting.
We talk more about that. Every morning we do the chanting, at least 1 hour, our mass, and 1 hour meditation. Morning and evening. This is our routine practice. And we explain to you why it's so important. Have you heard the Buddhist chanting before? How much? Oh, let me just turn on this one, and then you may have times. You may if you have time, you may go back. So just on this one, you can watch as well. Yeah, so we don't have much time. So here they use they chant vocally. Yeah.
What were they saying?
Oh, okay. What do you say? Like she mentioned, they can chant other things. They can chant the Buddhist teaching, the mantra, and so forth. We will talk more about that in the course. Okay, Nick is here. Oh, Nick, Nick, right? Yeah, can you share what is this Buddhist visualization about?
Visualization is an integral part
Yeah.
The best way I could ever describe it is that it's like a center that keeps your mind focused. Whatever you choose to visualize tends to be okay. No, there's no set thing. Some people focus on the Buddha. Some people focus on bodhisattvas. Some people focus on like colors. But and I'll take it back to golf again. But if you've ever seen Happy Gilmore, he has a whole part that's called his happy place. When he finds his happy place, he just focuses on it, visualizes it, and comes back new.
So they train you to become artists, right? When you sit there, you need to visualize things before you draw. So that is similar in Buddhist practice. Like for the Buddhist monk, if they can focus the mind on the breath, or they can visualize their, like you say, Buddha image pictures, or even the Buddha teaching too. But for common people, for artists, it's like she visualizes the pictures, image of the bench, or the people work through the hole and so forth. Right? So last part I want to talk, when talk about mandala. Have you seen the mandala before? Right? Have you seen the Tibetan monk making the mandala? Oh, you seen that?
They did one in Louisville not too long ago.
Last semester they came here, right?
Yeah.
Right. Did they do some mandala?
I think they did.
They did.
Yeah.
They have the college stand and they make this type of mandala. And this is one technique of concentration too. But is they focus on working on the mandala. We talk more about that. Why is what you have that kind of mandala? And do they keep this mandala?
No.
Why?
It's about being
Attachment. Whether it's spiritual or not attachment. Okay, anyway, so that's great. You guys enjoy this kind of information? Right, okay. Before we go to the next topic, next week, next week